You've reached the Overrated Experience Sports Betting Podcast. I am your host, Kyle Blondin. Welcome back for another week. This is episode 29 of regular week-to-week podcasting. If you've joined us before, you know what you're in for. We're going to talk sports betting. We're going to talk about sporting news, my thoughts on things all related to sports and sports gaming. And for those who haven't joined, what you're experiencing is my journey, my experience through the sports betting landscape. I'm by no means a professional sports bettor. You can definitely tell that by my hockey picks last week. They were absolute trash. But what I hope you can do is relate to what I'm doing. And that's been a long-time sports gambler looking to understand how to be better at it, looking at all the different sports to see if there's value, and week to week, ups and downs, sharing stories, and I hope that you follow along with the journey as we continue. And I'd like to have a shout out to those listeners that have been joining on a week to week basis, and some within the local area here in Ontario, Scarborough, Toronto, Ajax, welcome. Also around the world, we have some listeners from Ireland, Germany, but none closer than our friends in the United States out west, especially the Washington area out west there. We thank you very much for joining us on a week-to-week basis, and I hope you're spreading the word. The podcast is looking to grow as we approach, further into the year. Hope to add on some Facebook, maybe Instagram. Really spread the word, get it going. Hopefully have more folks join us. And you can hit us up on Twitter at the Overrated Experience on Twitter at Overrated EXPER2. That is Overrated EXPER2 on Twitter. Send us your picks, send us your wild parlays, your thoughts, your game notes, whatever you want. And we want you there. So follow us. We're looking forward to you joining. Well, here we go. Another week. Sports gaming and a lot going on. The Maddness, the March Maddness group of 64 through 32 is over with. And what I can tell you is that this year's March Madness, I didn't do a lot of research, just no time to go in depth on games, and really went in cold this weekend. Started off, with the Michigan State USC matchup on Thursday afternoon, and rode it all the way through the weekend. What I'll say is, in a quick summary, is I think I was okay. Up and down. I think on the last podcast, I kind of ran through some predictions against the spread, and those predictions turned out to be 18-32 matchups were successful, which is better than, I was better. I'm happy about that, I guess. Pros going to want a better percentage than that, but I'll go with it. So if you go back to last week's podcast, you'll see the games I took for day 1 and day 2 of the March Madness of 2023. My individual bracket has been screwed, just like many of you. I had Arizona going all the way. They got knocked out first round. Many of you have Purdue out, Virginia out, Kansas out. But just the emotional roller coaster. I don't know in the last little while, maybe since football season, where a sporting event and events such as March Madness have really been such an emotional roller coaster. And a lot of it was following, mostly on my phone as I'm doing my day-to-day stuff throughout the weekend. An opportunity to obviously catch games, but when you're checking your phone, following the Virginia game, and the phone updates that the game's over and they lose, and it just doesn't make sense until you watch the replay on how that game was handed over. For those fans for those folks out there who had money on that game, I don't comprehend why the thought process was with less than 10 seconds to go and you have possession, and worst case scenario, you get fouled and you go to the free throw line. That's the safest play, right? Instead, you heave it up with 9 seconds to go to half court, and a three sinks you. And you basically made a decision to wipe out your team from the tournament. That was one of the heartbreaking losses that I suffered this weekend. Also, like Kansas blowing a double-digit lead to Arkansas. Just that did not make sense to me on the weekend. Obviously Kansas, the Jayhawks were a number 1 seed. San Diego State helped me out. I mean, we got through a 5.5 point spread in day one. So there was a lot of ups and downs, a lot of emotional roller coasters. I just hurts sometimes watching some of these games. Just the game I had on Sunday night, and it wasn't the Gonzaga game, but geez, I can't recall. I can't remember what the over under. Like, you're losing over unders by 1 point, like 1 point. It's just so excruciating. And I think one of the feedbacks I'm hearing, and it is accurate, is although these games have been amazing, the drama's been there, the actual execution on shooting has been terrible. Free throw, I don't care. We're not talking NBA. We're talking guys that have scholarships, dedicate the majority of their time outside of school, quote unquote, go to school. Quote unquote. I put that in very big quotes that they're going to school. Sure, some of them are, not everybody. Just like football and every other basketball or football or whatever, maybe in college hockey, whatever it may be. And free throws are a problem. Can't hit a free throw. The easiest thing to do in the game, all the great things that these guys can do, but free throws are a problem. It doesn't make sense. And a lot of these guys like freeze under the pressure. And I guess that's why a very, very small percentage of them are making it to the next level in the NBA. But just exciting games, but poor execution. And if you had the Gonzaga plus minus 4.5, and you got beaten right at the last second, if you didn't see it, go back. Gonzaga is up. Game's over. They're up by 8 at the time. No, they're up by like 7. Whatever the score is, whatever. They're minus 4.5 in the game. And the other team with 0.9 seconds to go, or 0.7, heaves one up before the buzzer. They hit the three. The guys in the court are really doing, making no big deal. They're handshaking. Coaches are handshaking. But you see some footage from the sportsbook in Vegas. Just devastation and joy. Depends on what side you're on. But that's how close these games are. And just the drama, the hurt, the joy. And I can't imagine, I think I talked about this in length last week, being in Vegas for March Madness weekend might be the best. I still say NFL Super Bowl, not Super Bowl, but NFL Sundays are the best, but I got to try it out. So that's March Madness. We're going to get into March Madness picks because, Thursday is the beginning of the Sweet 16. We're here on a Wednesday because I didn't want to miss it. And I'll go through these picks that I'm going with to share with you in my humble opinion. And what we'll do is then go on to news and talk about some of the other sports and give some other picks. But March Madness leads the way, baby. March Madness. So from my perspective, just bringing up the old notes. I don't know where you make notes. I'd love to know how you record your bets and where you jot your notes down. Do you use your notes pad on your phone? Do you laptop? Combination of both? The old-fashioned pen and paper. I know Johnny Charts literally uses charts, pen to paper. It's old school kind of guy. So Johnny Charts, shout out to you. Hope those charts are working for you. So Thursday action. We got 4 games. And Michigan State, Kansas State lead it off Thursday, 6:30 p.m. When I was looking at this yesterday, the spread was 1.5 in favor of Michigan State. It is still 1.5. I like Michigan State here. I think Michigan State, for some reason, is just a March Madness, March type of team. Tom Izzo, on his back nine of the coaching career, I think they pull this out. Minus 1.5, I think this is a good steal of a spread. I know a lot of money's going on Kansas State, but I'm going to go with Michigan State in this one, minus 1.5. UConn yesterday was a minus 3.5. That's bumped up to a 4.5 over Arkansas. Arkansas obviously coming off a win over Kansas. And just again, another point made on VSiN. I can't remember who made it, but they had a gentleman on talking about recency bias. And recency bias meaning that these spreads tend to be based on what happened in the previous game, not necessarily a longer sample size. And I tend to believe that. I think Arkansas here at plus 405, because of that win in Kansas, gives them benefit of the doubt. Obviously, there was a great showing by them. But I like Connecticut here. I like them to cover the spread, even though it's gone up to 4.5. I'll take UConn minus 4.5 at minus 105. Next matchup, Thursday, 9 p.m. Florida Atlantic takes on Tennessee. Tennessee 4.5-point favorite. But where my eyes are is on the spread or the over/under on this. Yesterday's over/under for this matchup was 130.5. It's down to 129.5. That tells you the opposite. Usually, that tells you that the money's going on the under and not getting enough on the over, so the line's dropped. But I'm going to take the over. I like looking back at the last few games for each of these teams. I feel comfortable that they can hit the 130 mark. Gonzaga, UCLA, probably the big matchup here. A lot of points being scored, at least predicted to be scored. 145.5 is where I'm aiming my sights on here. Gonzaga, 80 points, 80 plus points last game. UCLA, I do think this is going to be a higher scoring game. I just couldn't see myself on a Thursday, 9:45 p.m. putting an under bet on this game and sitting there watching. San Diego State, Friday, kicks us off with Alabama. Many believe are the favorites to win this tournament. And, really, who's to argue? Yeah, they haven't really been tested, and that's because they smacked around their opposition. So Alabama is the rightful, kind of the favorite here, I got to think. 7.5-point favorite are the Alabama Crimson Tide. I'm going to go with them. I'm going to stick with it. San Diego State really hasn't impressed me. So I think Alabama, whether it leads at half and pulls away, and I don't think they put foot on the brakes. So 7.5 seems pretty good to me. Houston minus 7.5-point favorite. Again, Houston has obviously had the battle back in second half in their second round matchup to win. I like Houston here. I think that recency bias is keeping this at 7.5. So 7.5 it is. I'll take Houston. Princeton is kind of going on a Cinderella run here. Ivy League school taking on Creighton. Creighton's 9.5. I'd like Creighton to win, but I think that 9.5 is a little too juicy. And the Ivy League Ivy League Princeton Tigers are going to cover the spread at 9.5. Last game on the board of the Sweet 16, we have Xavier, the X-Men, taking on Texas, the Longhorns. Longhorns are 4.5-point favorite, but I do see Xavier sticking around this ball game, making it close, maybe even walking away with the victory, but I'm going to hold on to them at plus 4.5. So there you go. There's the madness. I am giving you my picks. I'm not selling my picks. They're just my thoughts, and hopefully I'm right, and I can gloat about it next week, but we'll see. So that's March Madness, and as we shift to some other news in the sporting world, WBC just finished last night. We had Japan over the United States. Everybody's talking about it. So my position, I think I was talking about it in the last few weeks, is I didn't really get into the WBC, not even from a betting perspective. And it's not because I didn't want to or looking down at the tournament. It just did not catch my attention as the tournament started. And just even as when the U.S. and Canada start playing, it just did not catch my attention. But you can't ignore the rest of the world. Japan, the countries like Puerto Rico and others that had high viewership. So obviously it's working. And the showdown between Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout last night to end it was probably the best way it could have probably ended. Two teammates considered, two of the top players in baseball. And Ohtani strikes out Trout 3 straight pitches swinging to win it for the Japanese team. And can you imagine when Shohei comes up and is ready to sign a new contract? Where do you think that starts? I mean, minimum $500 million. I think that's too low. You have a superstar, starting pitcher, and you have a superstar MVP candidate all around. So where does it go? Does he go $600 million? I mean, the sky's the limit for this guy. He's going to be making a lot of coin. So Shohei, I don't think he's going to stick with the Angels. That's what I think. And if he does, I got to believe that Trout's out the door. So that's the story. In other news about the WBC, it was announced that 2 years from now, after a lengthy layoff for the WBC, the WBC will return, most likely an impact because of the COVID impacts, delaying previous tournaments. And I think it's still too early. I think I know it's a cash grab. I know that they looked at the tournament and said, holy crap, man, we're making boatloads of money. We're getting international attention. But I do think you water it down when you leave it to only 2 years. I think you want to leave people wanting more. Make it 3 more years, make it 4 more years, or whatever it is. But I think 2026 is way too early. All right. And speaking of Major League Baseball, for you bettors out there, and I know that a lot of you are just joining the betting landscape or have joined since legalization, especially here in Ontario and across the various states in the U.S. and Europe. I don't think you've really had that problem. You've been legal for a lengthy period of time. But for you Major League Baseball fans, I want you to pay attention that I know not everybody looks at sports betting the same way and has different likes and dislikes. Some of you like tons of props. Some of you like, just betting the game straight up, over-unders. There's a whole lot of things that are out there to bet, and each individual has their own taste, just like food. So it doesn't appeal to me to bet futures. And what I mean by futures, these are events that are going to take lengthier times to play out, such as who is your World Series champion. And if you look on FanDuel, and I'm not sponsored by FanDuel, I'm just saying I'm using FanDuel right now, I would recommend, if you do take interest in following along for a lengthy period of time, maybe you've put a few dollars down, maybe you're not interested in betting day to day, that this may be for you. So if you go to FanDuel or any other betting site, you'll have the option to select maybe who's going to win the World Series. So as an example right now, if I looked at the top picks, Houston is a plus 600, which is the top odds on favorite to win the World Series, followed by the Atlanta Braves and the Dodgers, both at plus 150, the Yankees at plus 850. So maybe you're a Yankee fan, you got your Aaron Judge jersey on right now, and you want to throw $100 and you're satisfied to follow that along throughout the baseball season. That's for you, and that's something that you should maybe take a look at if that appeals to you. But just note, it will not pay out, obviously, until the World Series is concluded. But some other more intriguing selections you can make, including selecting teams to make the playoffs. And obviously, when you come to the Dodgers, they're minus 850. But if you think that the Pittsburgh Pirates are going to go on a run and get into the wild card elimination round at plus 1,500, maybe that's something that you will take enjoyment by putting a few dollars down on the Pirates. That's just an example. There's many other things, but one of the other ones I think are actually very intriguing is the individual team win totals. So you can actually pick a team, look at a team like, let's say, the Baltimore Orioles. Right now, their win total is 76.5 wins, over under, minus 122 for the over, and minus 102 for the under. So if you want to track some teams and that's pretty cool. You're looking at day by day. Baseball is, pretty much an everyday sport, and every team's playing predominantly every day, with the exception for here and there. You might find it entertaining to tie up your money and follow a team along and see how their journey is going. That's what you're gonna do. That option is there. And also another interesting way to look at it is that you could also look at team versus team. A team will have more wins over the 162 games. So you look at, to the extent, the Atlanta Braves matched up against the Houston Astros, like who's going to have more regular season wins. Or, even more interesting, might be some crappy teams like the Oakland A's and the Washington Nationals. You pick a side there and follow along who's going to have the most wins, which are going to be few and far between. So just something that I want you to be aware of. Take a look before baseball season kicks off. Might be something of interest and make your season more enjoyable. All right, other sporting news, NFL, nothing's changed. Lamar Jackson's still a free agent technically, or a franchise tag with able to negotiate with teams. Nobody signed him. That's a big collusion case, and I'm making that up because it's not a fact, but it's kind of a fact that nobody's signing a 26-year-old quarterback in his prime who's a former league MVP compared to, other teams signing, let's say, the Jimmy G's of the world or Baker Mayfield just signed a 3-year contract with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Lamar Jackson is right there for 2 first-round picks. That it's a no-brainer, but we know it's a bigger reason why nobody's taking a jump at him. Aaron Rodgers came out last week to state that he expects to be a New York Jet. Now it's down to the Packers and the Jets to work out a trade. Apparently that's gone cold. I don't know how you don't already have that in place some way, somehow, some structure of a deal before. The Jets hop on a plane with ownership to talk to Aaron Rodgers to see his feelings about coming to New York. But I got to believe it's going to work out at some point. I'm not too sure what leverage the Packers do have, since they made it quite clear they're moving on from Aaron Rodgers. And if this deal doesn't happen, looks like he'll return. I can't see them eating up the cap and having him sit there while Jordan Love takes over. Awkward. Very, very awkward. NHL news. Jerseys. Looks like Adidas. Obviously, I think we knew about Adidas being out as a NHL jersey manufacturer. They'll be around for this ongoing year and next year. But the following year, Fnatic has taken over the jersey creation. I don't know if he's the right word there, but they're going to be making jerseys for the NHL. Not too sure many people like that. NHL also, in the news with James Reimer coming out, deciding not to participate in warm up because the San Jose Sharks were going to wear and did wear their Pride jerseys that many teams have done in warm up as the season's progressed. So just some general thoughts on here. Like I tend to debate, should I bring these type of topics up in this conversation? But man, I'm a sporting fan, and this is a podcast where I got to dive into some of these items. My thought is that one, as far as the league goes, I can't believe that they didn't figure this out with the NHLPA going into this initiative to offer up, to have these type of festivities and nights and promoting these evenings and ensuring that you had full buy-in from the league. The players are your partners, and the goal is that you're trying to grow the game. And I think the idea is great, but look what's happened. They've managed it so badly that I think it's backfired and made it worse. It looks so bad on the NHL that the one sport, it is the one sport right now, if you're looking at many of the sports, that it has a stereotype that it's basically, it's a white game. I mean, from the image that it progresses, and the struggle to make the game more diverse. And I think they do that to themselves. And the idea for having, the idea is to try to open the door, to welcome people in, to say that, hey, we want you here. We want, we don't want nothing holding you back. We want you to join. And that's kind of one of the reasons for, that's the big reason for the Pride jerseys. And it's just so bumbled now that I don't know if they've made that message better or worse. I mean, imagine a young kid out there who, is, deciding, do I pursue hockey? And then you have James Reimer come out and say, I'm not doing this. And maybe that kid steps away. Like, maybe I don't want to get into this. It's not a friendly, open arm community that I'm joining. Why would I put myself through that if, you're not going to partner with me? And can you imagine James Reimer down the road 10 years from now, and that kid that maybe was impacted by his decision coming up to him and maybe got to the NHL in spite of James Reimer, and James Reimer might say, hey, my intention was not to discourage you from playing, or pursuing your NHL dream. But guess what? That's the cause and effect of what your decision has done. And I think that's the kind of message it's put out there. So I just don't think they've handled it properly. I think, it's just I would expect it that the NHL and the NHLPA had everybody on board with the initiative so that you wouldn't have these failures come out. And there's even further talk that the Blackhawks had to back out, because a couple of their players, I guess, were in fear of putting the jersey on just in warm-ups because of the backlash and the laws back in Russia. And you didn't see that coming. You didn't see that coming, that this is something you probably had to work around or get around. You're suspending players that don't have a legitimate injury to participate in your All-Star game, but you don't have a way to manage those who don't want to participate in an event like this that's supposed to celebrate the game and bring it to a new level of open arms and not exclude anybody. And I guess when I look from a personal opinion is that I love hockey. I don't play hockey per se, but I've always been an NHL fan. But it's hard to argue that, does everybody who is not, middle class white feel comfortable going down the journey of playing hockey and, putting the time and dedication where maybe they can go to another sport that's more open arms. And I think the NHL has failed to overcome that stereotype at the moment. I don't know if it's because the leadership hasn't changed for a lengthy period of time, which I do think that's a problem. And I just don't know. I think they've painted almost like a house that looks nice on the outside, but they haven't fixed what's on the inside to ensure that the game is welcoming. You might be missing the next Wayne Gretzky or Sidney Crosby because of how you've managed to open your arms to various different communities that don't feel that it's a welcoming environment. Tough scenario, and unfortunate, and you just hope that the door is open to anybody who wants to pursue the NHL dream, has the opportunity, and is given all the tools to do so, and nothing is making them feel that they can't. So that's my thought, that's my opinion, and it's just a shame that we're talking about somebody kind of putting a black eye on, a sore spot on, trying to bring new fans or new people into the game. But that's my 2 cents. Outside of that, NHL, is there any more news? I don't think so, but we do have some picks for some games tomorrow on Thursday. NHL action, we have a couple picks here, and I'm going to try to rebound from last week because, like I said, it was pretty brutal. And part of that is going to be Washington takes on Chicago. Chicago visits Washington. Washington started to turn around. When I mean turn around, is start to put the puck in the net. They're going to feed Ovi, who just passed Wayne Gretzky with the most 40-goal seasons on his chase to reach Gretzky's all-time goal-scoring total. And right now they're minus 250 over the Blackhawks. So I think it's locked. The Capitals are going to win this game. And if you throw in Dallas and Pittsburgh on a back-to-back, heading into Dallas. Dallas is minus 156. You put $100 in that parlay, you're going to get paid out $129.74. Also, Vegas, Calgary. Now, this is 6.5 even money. Vegas has been a lot of games of late where there's 7+ goals. And Calgary's starting to put the puck in the net, and they obviously have desperation to try to get back in the mix. They're out. They're done. The Flames are flamed out. They've burned their. I'm trying to use every analogy that involves their team name, but their playoff hopes are crumbling, if not already crumbled. And I like the 6.5 over plus 100 even. I think there's value there. I think Vegas will score goals. I think Calgary will also put up more goals than we think. And also great value. I like the Leafs on the road in Florida, coming off a big loss against the Islanders. I think the Leafs will rebound. Florida is desperate. They lost against the Flyers the other night. and I don't think that the Leafs will lose back-to-back, and minus 105 on the Leafs, I'll take it. No problem at all. NBA. NBA action tomorrow night. Two games that stick out to me. We have Cleveland Cavaliers playing a second back-to-back game. Well, like the second game in Brooklyn, beating Brooklyn. Previous game, Brooklyn's, I think, on a little bit of a slide, and I think you'll eventually see Miami take over that last spot of number 6 so that they stay out of the play-in game. I think Miami's going to start going on a roll a bit, and Brooklyn is going to fall back. I thought it was going to happen at some point, and I think it will start happen in the last few games of the season. So I like Cleveland here at minus 4 over the Brooklyn Nets. And I do like, with Paul George being on the shelf for a few weeks, that OKC goes into LA, covers the 3 points, and I'll take the Thunder over the Clippers. No soccer action as far as European action. Club, that is. There is European qualifying this week, so there's various matchups. I have not looked into that. But if that's what you enjoy, a lot of afternoon action starting tomorrow, Italy, England, and that goes throughout the weekend for Euro, the next Euros in a couple of summers. Also, MLS is in full swing. Really not getting a good handle on MLS right now. The weather is a big factor, in my opinion. A lot of the teams, like especially the East Coast teams, are just getting into spring. It's cold as hell out there. TFC, for example, my hometown, it just couldn't get I had a same game parlay going last week against Inter Miami, and I was one shot away from winning that bet, and it did not work. And it's just one shot where just one more kick towards the net would have sufficed and paid me out. Now, just one tip for you folks out there on your soccer betting. Many of the betting sites use a resource. They use it's not all the same, but they use resources to calculate the stats and the finality of the data. And I've been in a situation a few times now where when you're selecting shots on goal, or especially shots, and what shots is, again, is that it's an attempt on goal. The shot could be blocked. It could miss to the 18th row. It does not matter. It could be on net. It is a shot. And when these shots occur right at the end of the game in injury time, sometimes certain sites do not record that last shot or that last shot on target. Case in point, I had a game in the Bundesliga on Sunday where Bayern Leverkusen was taking on Bayern Munich, and I had this game to have a few other things going on, but one of them was plus 23 shots or more in the matchup. And at the very last second, Bayern Leverkusen had a breakaway, or at least a really tight scoring chance, and took a shot. It was saved, but it was at the last whistle. That it happened just before the last whistle. So if you looked at the Bundesliga website, it showed 23 shots because it included that last shot on target, or even the just last shot attempt. Well, other sites did not include it because they almost like they closed it out before that shot was recorded during the end of the game. So whatever FanDuel had showed 22. And this is not the first time. This is like multiple times this has happened, where I've had to log in, contact their support, and get them to review, and they've paid me out. But I just want you to keep an eye on, especially you soccer bettors out there, for things like match shots. Make sure that you're doing your double check on a few sites to ensure that the totals that you've bet are the ones that are being used to determine if you win or lose. So that's my tip of the week. I suggest you take it. And from that, I'm going to say the pleasure was all yours. This podcast in the sports betting overrated experience is over and out.